Well, boys and girls, we are on number 2 of 3 tonight. It's the start of the weekend. We're kicking it off hot. We had Mr. Jamie Tucker today. We have this special guest. I will announce him in a second. Then we have AJ Phoenix. When I talk about these bumpy roads on Stirring the Pot, this, my friends, might be one of those bumpy roads because he's very unpredictable. This, Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid, and my very special guest, Thunderheart, JGeorge. Thank you, my man, for coming in, spending the time, and talking to us, the fans.
Yes, sir. It's your boy JGeorge, and we have nothing but time, my friends. So why not share it with the world?
I have been waiting. I've been chomping at the bit, as they say. As soon as we got a connection and a date on the schedule for Stirring the Pot, I have been so excited to talk to you, my man, because I don't know shit about you. You're an enigma. We haven't really talked outside the ring, but I've seen you perform plenty inside the ring. So my one brain cell that I have, I'm very intrigued with many a thing, JGeorge. So I've been really waiting to sit down and talk to you, my friend.
Dude, absolutely. And I just want to say this off the bat. And I was just trying to think. At first, you made it sound before we went on. You made it sound like we never really crossed paths. But there's definitely been at least a handful of shows that I've performed on that you've been at. Definitely. And one of the reasons I bring that up is because one of the things I've noticed about you right off the bat, you're one of those fans that are that really put themselves out there, but not in a way that you don't do it at the expense of the show. You don't do it to put yourself over, but you're so supportive of professional wrestling and like that. You always have footage. Like that's the one thing that's always stuck to me, and it's especially like such a valuable thing for wrestlers because we don't always get our footage. And it's I think it's changing now, but it used to be like, oh well, we're gonna sell DVDs or we're gonna put them up somewhere, and then you just never see them. But that's one of the things. You've always been super supportive, and you're one of those fans that we have a couple of them in the New York area, but in New England, you're one of those fans where it's like, if we had 100 Don Kincaids at every show, every promotion would be well off. Seriously, and I mean that
No,
from you know,
that
yeah.
puts so much warmth in my heart, my friend. I really, really appreciate that because I know there's a line as a fan. You don't cross that line. And like you were saying, I mean, I'm vocal. We have fun. I'm a fan and I try to get
But
other
that's
people to kind of,
right.
yeah, go ahead.
That's well, no, that was the other thing I forgot to realize. Like you also like at the shows, it's like you act like you give that energy that we want for wrestling, which is like so hard to like find now. Which is that's a whole other thing we could get into. But like you have that, you boo who you're supposed to boo, you cheer you're supposed to cheer, and you have fun with it, and that's great.
I thank you again, sir, because that's all I ever want to do when I go to wrestling. I don't go there to, again, like you said, I go there and I make friends and I've made a lot of beautiful relationships with the wrestling fam, if you will. But I'm not there to put myself over. I might have a Kincaid file shirt that some beautiful sisters have made for me. I'll wear that once in a while. But I'm there to put you men and women. I'm there to elevate you guys, not for me. And that's the thing about wrestling. And there's a line between the fan and wrestlers. A lot of fans like to try to cross that. I don't ever want to cross that. I know my place. I do my thing. I take my dad to all the shows, so we go home and we chit chat about our favorite parts of the shows, and it's the characters and the storylines that drive us to go to wrestling. And my friend, holy shit, my friend, do you bring, woo, do you take us on a ride, the fans, because you come out that curtain and man, you're vocal, you're charismatic, you have a presence about you, you use your voice, you use your body language. And my goodness, do we have some fun with JGeorge? Holy cow. And we love to talk about character on this show because I'm so intrigued with character. Because I don't like to go behind the curtain again. I know my place. I don't want to go back there and know your business. I may stalk you on face. I mean, I may follow you on face page and stuff, but I don't want to know all your shit. So I kind of keep a distance. I know where my place is. But there's something that's been killing me. It's been eating me up alive. And we're going to talk about everything JGeorge. But right now, I want to talk about you hooked me into a thing that you did personally with a Guinness Book of World Records promo. And look at that smile. Now, I'm thinking JGeorge's going to pull a half hour, maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe up to an hour to like really push the limits. You went like 4 fucking hours, man. If I'm not mistaken, it was 4 hours. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
It was so like that because that's the time limit that you could do on live videos on Facebook. As I found out, I previously found out the hard way because I attempted to read The Great Gatsby on Facebook Live one night, and it cut me off around the 4 hour mark. And I did not make a dent on that book either in 4 hours, which is a shame on my end.
That promo. All right, now hear me out. You went live, and I was right there from second one because I seen you building it up, and I'm like, I share that shit. You know, I share as much as I can. I shared that shit, and I was there right from when you started. So I'm watching it. I even maybe watch a little TV on the side or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to watch a little more TV back then than I do now. I'm a kind of a busy boy nowadays, so I don't watch a whole lot of TV. But hour one comes and goes, and I'm like, holy F, this guy is still going. So I turn down the volume, pay attention to what I'm watching with the fam. I go over a few minutes later, I turn it back up. JGeorge still going at it. This went on for 4 effing hours, dude. I could not believe you were going on for that long. And I kind of skimmed through stuff I missed to kind of feel out what I missed. What the hell was going through your mind when you were going for a Guinness Book of World Records and you ended up at a 4 hour video, and you probably could have gone longer if I'm not mistaken.
Probably, yeah. Well, I don't know if there's an actual world record for a wrestling promo, but I don't know. I mean, what was going through my? Now that I was like thinking back at it, I was kind of impressed with myself that I didn't do like a lot of too much filler stuff during the promo to pad it out. I try to just keep it as a promo, but the beauty of it is anything can be a promo. So I kind of had a lot to work with, and I think I was doing I was in a fatal 4-way match, so I had 3 guys, so I could do an hour apiece on each guy, really, in theory. So I wasn't like too worried, but it was just a matter of like I needed to film I always like to do promos and stuff to promote my shows and get my content out there. And I thought to myself like, oh well, you know what? Let me do. I used to do a lot of like live stunts on Facebook, little silly stuff, and I thought this could be a fun little thing to do. And I was like, let's give it a shot. This is the perfect match to do it for. There's enough people in it that I could keep going with it. So that was kind of like the idea of it. It was like it was a way to like get eyes on it, on the match, the promotion, and all that.
Man, creative, because if anything, JGeorge is such a creative guy that I have noticed. And in wrestling, if you kind of lack on the creativity portion of the program, you lack a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because let's be real. Wrestling is just like gigantic, over the top, larger than life characters and such. Not everybody, but your character specifically, big on character driven, the gimmick, if you will. I don't like to use the words, because I'm a fan. I may throw a couple around, but I don't like to use the terms. I'm no, that kind of a fan. But man, I love characters. So let's get into the character of JGeorge, because I've known you as the unpredictable JGeorge. And man, you throw us some zigs and zags and lefts and rights whenever, because again, your creativity is off the charts. I'd like to know, where are you? Is this much different than the real JGeorge, if that's even your name? It could be Jay or it could be George. I don't know your real name, but I did hear a notification. So speak to us, and I'm going to turn that crap off.
It's the name and everything like kind of came. The unpredictable. Well, no. All right. So I always knew when I got into wrestling, I wanted to be a version of myself to the full the old turn yourself up. But like Don, I find myself, and it's like it's very weird, but like I find it like a lot of people look for certain like definition of something. They look for certain, especially in wrestling, especially when you're applying to different promotions and you're trying out at different places, and you always get the question, well, what's your character? What's your gimmick? And it was always like, I don't know, like, am I a butcher? Like, do you know what I mean? Am I a butcher? So like I could tell if I said that I could tell you that and then I could say it, but then I don't have to wrestle like a butcher in the ring. I'm now the thing there's a wrestler named the Butcher, but you know, I was just CPA for example when he was doing his thing, like, all right, yeah, you see it, you get it, but and he kind of, me and him kind of had this parallel that we went through too, the similar thing of like we want to be ourselves, but we have to like define ourselves, and it has to be a thing. You know what I mean? Look at Anthony Green. Anthony Green was, I think, another one where it was always like he wants to be himself, but he had to like define it because there's certain, you know what I mean? Like people want to be able to pencil that in. And he came up with Retro AG, which is a reflection of who he is as a person, right? So originally, the unpredictable JGeorge was like, all right, well, yeah, that fits because it's like I am pretty erratic in nature, and I like subversive comedy and alternative comedy and stuff like that. But part of it too was a rib on Johnny Rods because he was the unpredictable Johnny Rods, and
Okay.
people that at the school I was at the time wanted to like, oh yeah, that could be funny if we have an unpredictable guy. But that was the thing too. Like I would go back and watch Johnny Rod stuff. Like it wasn't like because this was an issue I ran with, was like people would be like, all right, I'm the unpredictable J Drew. You're like, well, what's unpredictable about you? And it's like, well, I can't tell you. And that was always the issue. All right, well, what makes you so unpredictable? Always, constantly. And it's like, and then I look back, Johnny Rods was just like he wrestled and like he didn't like do anything too zany or unpredictable. So it was like, how did he get away with it? And I was trying to figure that out. And it was eating away at me. And I was having a lot of identity, which is, funny to say. I was having a lot of identity crisis because it was like, well, who should I be? Who do I have to be? But I still want to be myself. And then I eventually went to drop the unpredictable nickname, but I'm still unpredictable at heart. I just don't have to like throw it in people's faces.
Put a label, put a label on it.
Right. Because it's like at a certain point, it was like, again, like you go, you don't ask like a certain guy like what's his, like a guy like The Rock. You don't ask what his gimmick is. Like, what's he gonna tell you? He's The Rock. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm a cocky. No, he's The Rock. That's it. I always saw same thing. Chris Jericho, which he would say he could at least say he's a rock star, and in a sense, I could be a rock star too at times. If you see, it depends on what day you see me on.
Well, it's funny you say that because your attire changes. It's not always the exact same gear all the time that I've seen you in. Yes. And I've seen you in like black leather full jumpsuit kind of thing, and that's very rock starish when you come out and you got the hair and the whole thing going on.
Yeah, and that's part of like I'm very big on that of like I'm always changing my look and my attire because like part of it is evolving, and if something doesn't take off, then it's time to change it. And like I always try to find the next thing to like go on to because I think that's very important. You have to evolve as an artist, and I can't just rely on the same thing, especially if it doesn't work to where I want it to. So I need to like, Chris Jericho calls it the David Bowie principle, and I 100% subscribe to that. But I also always wanted to be like Mankind, in the sense of like I always like that, or like the Great Muta, like those type of guys where they have different versions of their characters. And I want to like really explore that more because I do have different versions of myself that I can get out there. And there's like the rock star JGeorge, and then there's maybe a more bruiser style JGeorge, more gritty. Then there's there's different versions of me inside, and I have all this training, all this background in wrestling. I trained in Mexico. I trained in Germany. I have a collegiate wrestling background, so I have all these like different styles that I know how to do, and I have to. You can't apply them within. Again, if you're a certain gimmick, you can't apply them in there. So.
I totally feel that. Now, a couple questions on all of that. When you're changing and evolving your character, are you feeling that it's at a point, or are you just feeling what the fans are or are not giving you to be like, you know what, this isn't really working right now? Like, what kind of changes your mind, yourself or us? And the second part to this question, are you talking like in the future when we all get back from this? Because I love the evolution of a character. Are you saying there's more JGeorge that you already have set up that we're going to be able to see?
Oh, 100%. And like to that, it's both ways. Like there's been times where I felt like the audience wasn't, whether or not, because the thing is, I always try to get a reaction, and I usually do. So in a lot of sense, it doesn't fail in that sense. But in terms of like growing and going to bigger places and stuff like that, like that's where it's like I get in my head of like, okay, maybe I got to tweak this, I got to tweak that. Like when I don't know, I don't know if you saw this initial version of me where like when I first started, I was doing like I still have the similar to what Sami Zayn's doing. I had like the Fidel Castro cap, and
I never saw that.
I used to come out with the stogie. I would wear the fatigues, and I did that for a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, and because I did like I did a student film where I played a young Fidel Castro during the Bay of Pigs, and I was like, this is like a cool look, and this is like a cool thing, and I was doing like political promos and stuff, and then I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to be like I don't want to be someone that's very heavy leaning on political stuff at that time, and I don't want to really push that agenda. And then I was wearing fatigues and stuff because it looked cool. It was part of the character, right? But then it was like, oh, but it's not like wrestling gear, and people like would still have little snide remarks about it, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to people think I'm not a legitimate wrestler. So I started slowly changing it where I started, all right, now I'm going to start wearing long tights and all this, and then it's that slowly transform, it's like slowly like little pieces like that.
Now, if there's anything that JGeorge is not short of, is words. You do promos, and when you do them, my friend, I love them because of your creativity and the way you put stuff together. Always been easy for you to kind of, do stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I was always like, before I got into wrestling, like I would always like find something or someone to cut. I was I was such a shit dude because like I would like with my friends, like if I would get in a little argument, little menial argument with them, I would like then I'd go on Facebook and cut promos on them and make YouTube videos and cut promos just because I wanted to have that practice of like cutting the promo. So that was always like a big part of, and then yeah, and then now I just like try to push myself more because I have a film background, so I try to take advantage of that and like just try to anything I could do to make things differently. Did you by chance see the last promo I put up?
Well, it's been a little bit since I've seen JGeorge because my Facebook is weird. If I don't go to most recent, I've missed out on a ton of shit. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to say I might have missed it. Refresh myself, obviously, but the fans too. Yeah, talk to us about it.
because that's how Facebook does it sometimes. And so there's this company, Synergy Pro Wrestling. They're doing this cool thing. It's called Promo Mania, and there's like 16 guys in it, round robin tournament, and we're all cutting promos on each other each week, and money's being raised to schools, H2O. I think actually the New England Pro Wrestling Academy is a part of that. Anthony Green and Ava Everett are in it. Kyle the Beast is in it. Myself, Max Caster. It's a great lineup of guys. Jeff Cannonball's in it as well. Logan Black, as you know. And I did a video. This my last recent one. I did Max Caster, and I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he does these. He's a rapper, and he does these great raps. And I knew it was going to be a big challenge for me, so I made like a Dark Side of the Ring parody video on him. So
Okay.
yeah, it's up on my page and stuff, and I'm on my Twitter, on my Instagram. You'll definitely get a kick out of it. But that's it. I was like, and that got a good reception because it was timely. And originally I was gonna do it like, oh, it's gonna be he's a rapper, so I was gonna do behind the music. But then I thought like, oh wait, everybody's been digging on Dark Side of the Ring, so yeah, if you see it, you'll like it. But that goes into like it was completely different. It wasn't like holding the phone up like, hey brother, I'm gonna do this. It was like a whole different thing because again, with wrestling promos, they in theory could be anything. So
I love that the way you described it all, and it because those things get lost again. Getting lost in the shuffle of wrestling as a character is very easy enough. But when you're doing promos, like you said, it's not this, hey, brother, August 21 at the Elks Lodge, I'm going to kick your butt. It's not that. It's very thought through. It's got production value. It's got creativity value. So
yeah.
I got to go check that out.
Yeah, and it's funny the way you were doing that. That's like all the tropes they teach you at wrestling school when you cut a promo. You have to say the name of the venue, you have to say the date, you have to say your name 4 or 5 times, and all this stuff. And a lot of guys box themselves in that, and then everyone's doing the same promos.
I can totally feel that. And that's why, you know what, JGeorge? That's why I like to do my Kincaid file thing. I come running up randomly. And I always ask, especially if I ask every time, but especially if I haven't met you, hey, JGeorge, Don Kincaid, I do this shtick. I kind of blah, blah, blah. Would you like to do it? Because I love raw reaction right then, right now. You know what I'm saying?
And it's a test. You did one with Hamlet Hurts You.
Oh, my God. I love that guy.
How great is that? And it's such a great character. It's so different. It's one of those like where you really haven't seen something like that. Like there's been plenty of like actor characters like that in wrestling, but like he takes it differently, and he's a legitimately Shakespearean trained actor, and the way it's great. And but what you did with that, and I know how you do the Kincaid files, and I've seen guys fail. I've seen guys succeed on that. So like he was boom. That's how I knew he was in tune with the character when you approached him like that.
Yeah, because he came at me just like that, like with no fail. I would love to do it. His response was, but then and he goes, so how do we do this? I go, I do this goofy ass intro, and then it just kind of leads you into whatever you want to say. He goes, excellent. So I did my shtick, and what he ever gave me, I'm like, I'm memorized what he's saying,
Yeah, of course. What made you want to start doing those like off the cuff? Because like you say you're very adamant about not wanting to like cross certain lines, cross certain boundaries within it, but you also like do a lot of this stuff with them, which supplements which in my opinion supplements what we're doing. So like, how did you approach that?
Well, it's funny you say that because I don't like to cross those lines. And again, getting up in you guys' bubble zone, that little aura, if you will, when you're hanging out in an area or whatever, I don't like to do that. But it just came comfortable to me one time. I was hanging out with Fogman and Bruce from Center Ring. We're at a, let's see, it was a ECPW out of New Jersey, I want to say maybe. And they were at Bridgeport. It was a Bridgeport Brawl 2018. It was outdoors. It was a grand evening, but it was nighttime and the lighting was absolutely horrible. And as the sun is coming down, I knew my footage was going to be worse shit. So I go, hey, Fog, I'm just going to go roam around and shit. I'll keep an eye on the ring or whatever, but I'm going to go roam around and check shit out. He's like, all right, kid. So I go roam around and I found somebody that I go, hey, man, I'm not bored, but I want to do a little something extra. I go, would you mind if we do a quick on the spot promo? And it happened to be Zafar from the Pyramids of Power out of everybody. And he was very gracious with having me do that. And I thought it would be cool to get, you're still in gimmick, but I'm getting a raw reaction. That's what I was looking for. I didn't want anything scripted by any means because, hey, look at us right now, JGeorge. I don't write a fucking thing down. So that raw reaction is what I was kind of hoping for. the fireworks were going off. He got all mad because he was going against a Patriot in a tag team match. It came off so well. It got my look at. I got goosebumps talking about it, JGeorge. So
Yeah.
I started going to everybody. I would ask them, hey, I know we don't know each other very well, but I want to do this stuff, and I did it with Safar. Would you be cool doing it? And everybody was saying yes, and I was like, fuck, this is awesome. I even, check this shit out. I even went to Jay Ice in the ambulance, all fucked up, bandaged up, in the back of an ambulance, and I asked him if I could do a promo, and he cut a promo while he was all effed up in the back of an ambulance.
Wow.
It was awesome, dude. It was so cool.
How long have you been going to shows?
That was like the summer of 2018. So I started in 2016. Now, I've been an avid fan of wrestling since I was a kid, but I got to a point to where I wanted to do something else. I got a bunch of music here. It's all collecting dust in the corner here.
Yeah.
And I kind of got out of that, and I wanted something else to do because I don't have a whole lot of hobbies besides music. So I drove to PvP up to South Hadley one night by myself, took an hour drive. I might have had a little bit of the devil's lettuce because, it was a lonely drive.
Yeah,
so we get there, and man, I had such an effing great time. And as I'm there, I'm like, I wonder if I could do like little footage because I see a lot of people using their cell phones. So I can read wrestling pretty good as a fan. I can see when something's being set up, may it be an Irish whip and something's going to happen, or getting up to that top rope. I can see if it's going to fail and it's going to be a missed spot, if you will, or if it's going to come through. I'll whip up my camera real quick, tape for about 20, 30 seconds. And then that's how I started sharing with all you men and women and started networking.
You know what's just funny? That is in of itself has become sort of for lack of a better, it's become a job within the business in a lot of ways of like fans. Guys like Hoke, I think is probably one of the biggest examples of it. Like he started out as a fan that would just do what you just mentioned. Look for the opportune time, know when a certain spot is coming, capture it, put it online, and he was just consistent with it, and it became like an actual thing to the point where I started seeing it in other companies across the country where there was like that. It was like a social media guy. I don't even know what the term for that is, but that's like an actual thing, and it's it's a valuable thing because it keeps our stuff out there. Every independent wrestling show used to be just a house show, and if you were there, that's it. That's it's
right.
If you weren't there, you missed it. But now, people like you give us an opportunity to be seen a lot more.
Well, I appreciate that because it's all about having fun as a fan, and I don't want to be that guy that's sitting there trying to do full matches and reaching over people if I'm not in the front row or being obnoxious with it. I've never wanted to be that guy. There are a few of them out there, but I never wanted to do that. So I usually don't do full matches. But man, the last year and a half, maybe, solid. Companies have been saying, hey, if you want to tape full matches, that's cool. We don't mind, And then I'll put them on YouTube, or sometimes I'll take clips from them like I used to do regularly.
Yeah.
But like with the clips, it's easy because I'll use like Nathaniel Carr, okay? He'll be like, you know what, Don? It's real cool because if I ever want to check out, a promotion wants to check out my stuff, if I've reached out to them, they say, well, what do you got for stuff? And instead of showing them like a 3-5 minute highlight reel that they have to sit through, I'll go, here, check this clip out, check that clip out, and give them a couple of your clips. And they'll be like, oh, that's some cool stuff. And he's gotten work out of that. So, I mean, that actually makes me feel so good that it's being utilized like that, because that's not whatever I thought it was going to be for,
Of course not. And you'd only been doing it since 2016?
Yeah, late 16 too. It was in the winter. I remember.
They started going to shows. That's wild. I would have thought you would have been doing it. I mean, you would have been going to these shows a lot longer than that. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, so like in a wrestling career wise, that's a very short wrestling career. Like, it's not that whole much of time in the indie scene, Now, that's why when I run into you men and women that have only been in a few years, you guys have been talking back and forth to me like you've been in it for 10 years, or better at sometimes because of who you've been trained by, what they've been taught, what you've been taught. And it's not just one training school. And that's another thing I like to talk about is, like you mentioned, Johnny Rods, he's got his thing going on. But then we have Slick Wagner Brown. He's got his thing going on.
Yeah.
You have Paul Roma, Mario Mancini.
Yes.
They have their thing going on. And I mean, all of these cool schools, you could go and train at all of these and get different experiences, which becomes this big, giant package of knowledge and helps you out as a wrestler because we all know, Mr. JGeorge, it doesn't take just one or two things to become a wrestler. It takes like a million, maybe even a trillion things to really make that package of a wrestler happen.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's, as you know, it's very demanding, in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
But alas, I mean, that's part of, I guess, of what we sign up for, so to say. But and I think a lot of for a lot of guys like that, experience is relative too, which is an interesting thing where it's like, if you go, it's, how many shows you perform at in a year. Some guys could be doing it for 5 years, but only have 10 matches in those 5 years,
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, like, I would talk to Mr. Travis Huckabee, and when I talked to him, it was a little bit. He's such a calm, pulled back person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not used to wrestlers being as such. I'm used to seeing unpredictable JGeorges and such,
Yeah.
And when he was talking to me about how long he's been in the business, he goes, well, it's been 5 years, but I kind of, at 3 years, after 2 years, I kind of did this, did that. And he kind of broke it down a little bit. And like you said, guys can tell me they've been, or ladies, they can tell me they've been in it for 5 years, but it doesn't mean they've been in it for 5 years,
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's all relative.
And ever since, I have to say, and I've been wanting to say this since we've actually connected a preface to this recording. You've got this Lenny Kravitz vibe going on, and it's really fucking kicking my ass because I love me some Lenny Kravitz. The glasses, the beard, the hat. You remind me a lot of Lenny Kravitz right now.
I want to get away.
Yeah.
I wanna fly.
Yeah, baby.
He was wasn't he married to Lisa Bonet?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, I don't know. I always get these I've gotten these comparisons to like Prince and like Lenny Kravitz. Like I wasn't a big Prince fan, and I think that was because I grew up in a Michael Jackson household. I don't know. The reason I'm wearing this hat is because my hair is a mess right now. It's in that weird middle stage. I was debating on this quarantine is driving everyone kind of nuts. I don't know if I should shave my head. I don't know if I should go back to the mohawk. I don't know if I should just grow the whole thing out. So for now, I'm just like keeping it contained from public consumption.
I am so glad that you put it on because you thought you were having a bad hair day. I think it makes the ensemble, if you will.
Oh no, absolutely, yeah. Oh look, I could have. There's a million hats. I could have worn the Fidel Castro hat, but
you seem to be a very passionate. Obviously, you're great at your craft, but a fan. You're a very passionate fan of wrestling, and you can tell by just the way you present your character and the way you come out from the curtain, through the curtain, and into the ring and do your performance. I'm very curious as a fan watching you perform and kind of getting that vibe because they say if you're not a fan, then what are you doing in the business? But not everybody's a really passionate fan of wrestling. So I'm kind of curious. Do you flick on the tube? Do you watch the WWE, AEW, NWA? Do you still watch all of that stuff nowadays?
Yeah, man, 100%. Like, it's I don't know. Sometimes I think it's just like this like schedule that's like ingrained in me or part of it. I'm a big like, and this is I think what sucked me into wrestling is like I'm a big completist when I consume certain media. Like if I'm watching a certain TV show, I'm watching every single episode of it. I'm here for the long haul, And with wrestling, it's like it never starts, it never ends. So like when I started watching wrestling, I wanted to know all these backstories. Like I wanted to go as far back to when because like Kane was like one of my first like favorite wrestlers. I needed to go back to story of like when that started, but that doesn't just start from when he debuts. It starts from when the Undertaker debuts, and it starts, like you just go back and you pick up all this knowledge, but then it never really ends, and then it keeps going and all this stuff. So I'm always going to keep watching. I'm like, I don't want to miss anything. So I watch,
same here.
yeah, I watch everything. And then with AEW, of course, I watch that. And I have a lot of friends that are on there now. So, want to see how they do. And then also, it's also, you don't want to be as a wrestler. You, you don't want to be completely disconnected. I think that works for some guys where they could just be like, whatever. And then that kind of works for him. Like, I think like Darby Allin is kind of like that, where he's just like, I don't know, man. Paul McCartney was like, I think Paul McCartney, I remember this always stuck in my head. Paul McCartney said, I don't listen to music because I don't want to steal any ideas or get them in my head. Right. Which I do get that a lot because, certain things will seep into you and then you'll start doing things subconsciously. But at the same point too, I want to see what the style what stuff works, what stuff doesn't, all that. But
yeah, for sure.
I'm now, what are you the same way? Do you watch stuff too?
Oh, I do avidly. Like you said, I want to be in the know. I don't want to read it on Facebook from all my friends that are on there that have watched, said, right. And I follow a few pages and the companies, and I don't want to be secondhand knowing. I want to see that stuff, Yeah. But there's so much. Wrestling has just exploded over the past, and I mean, I'm just going to say even 5 years, never mind the past decade alone. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's gotten so crazy, and so many companies you can watch. Literally, you'll never, especially with IWTV right now, you can never keep up with every single company that's out there right now. It's impossible.
Yeah,
it is. But I want to revert back to when you mentioned Kane and about looking back to the origin, if you will, because you keep going back further, you get to where he really started. And on the YouTube, if you don't know, but I'm thinking JGeorge knows this about one Mr. Kane. His first gimmick was like this Christmas tree thing, and he looked like a giant fucking idiot. Have you ever seen that thing?
He was the Christmas creature in Memphis.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah, he was. And I mean, I don't mean to harp on him and call him a fucking idiot, but I mean, when you see Kane and then you see the Christmas creature, you're like, what the fuck was he doing?
That was the thing in Memphis, and I wonder how many guys were like that, because there's so many weird. There was like a Freddy Krueger character, and there was like a giant. There's been multiple giant mummies in wrestling and stuff, and it's like, how many like big men like that started off, like just like that. Sid Vicious he started off as Lord Humongous, which was like a Mad Max ripoff character,
Yeah.
But
whenever I found that out as a fan, oh my God, I must have watched that damn video, I don't know, a dozen times back to back. I'm like, this is totally blowing my mind. This cannot be real. This is a fake internet video.
Well, for me, what I first found out was that he was Isaac Yankem yeah, I was like such a nerd. I'd read everything of that, and I found out, oh wait, Kane used to be this guy, and that was like the first time I was like, oh, this is what he looks like without a mask.
Mm-hmm.
And but I wasn't even like, I wasn't even more like shocked that he was like a dentist character. It was more the fact that, oh wait, he didn't wear a mask, so this is what he looks like,
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Now, as a fan, because again, we're talking fandom, if you will. Me right now, I don't like to read the dirt sheets. I don't like to know what's going on. Even if it's at the smaller promotion, like the indie scene that we all hang out at. And I've made a lot of network with the men and women. I don't want to know. I want to walk in and still be a fan. Do you like to be a fan? Be surprised. Do you read the dirt sheets and all of that stuff?
No, I'll listen to a lot of analytical stuff, or listen to certain guys that will, people's whose opinion I trust, but it's not so much like It wasn't like when I was younger for spoil. I don't seek out spoilers or anything like that. But I do like to hear, because like you said, there's so much going on with wrestling. I like to hear what's going on. If I can't keep up with certain places or whatever, I like to see how business is doing in certain places like that. Like it's more, like I said, from an analytical standpoint for me
Mhm.
at this point.
Now, I'm in CT. You're quite a distance from me. If I'm not mistaken, you're in the New Jersey area. Is that correct?
That's sir, North Jersey.
Now, another thing that intrigues me is home promotions because not all of us have been introduced to J. George. Some of us have, some of us haven't. So if this is a new meeting for some of the fans getting to know J. George, where is your home base? Do you even have a home base of a promotion, if you will?
Not at the moment. I am a wanderer. It's funny. So this last year, this is 2020, which is, who knows what's going on now, this craziness. And it's funny, this just came up on my story. Just last year, I was in China last year. And all right, so before that, I had spent I was in WXW in Germany.
Hmm.
I sought out on myself to like I went out, signed up for to train at their school for a couple months, and it was a great experience. And I wanted to really get more familiar with the European style of wrestling, and I did that for a couple months. And then when I came back, because I had done that trip, I was given an opportunity to train with OWE in China, which at the time seemed like a big deal. Unfortunately, they didn't run their company so well that they were able to take advantage of a lot of their business opportunities. But alas, I still got to experience the life of a full time international wrestler in a foreign country, and that was such a great experience. And yeah, I was there, and I was supposed to. This is the crazy part. I was supposed to be there indefinitely. I was supposed to be there for a long time, and
Really?
yeah, this was like in the summer. I would have been there into the fall, perhaps into the winter, which is when a lot of the stuff down there started happening.
Hmm.
And they messed up my visa for whatever reason. Whatever
Wow.
happened whatever happened there, my trip got cut short a little bit early. But when I came back, I was like trying to find my footing, and I thought to myself, Don, I thought to myself like, oh man, well, I just spent the better part of this year in two different countries wrestling, one of them in one of the top promotions in Europe, and the other one in a hot rising promotion. Sky's the limit for me. And I came back. It was kind of like crickets, and it was just like, oh wait, what? What's what's going on? No spot for me here. Oh, okay. Um, yeah, and I kind of had to start. It was so weird. It was like I had to start over from scratch, and but that's how the wrestling business is, right? I was ready for it. So one of the places, to make a long story short, violence and suffering out of New Jersey. That's been a big place for me that they've been with me. They're like right down the road from me, and I probably would say they're one of my home promotions at the moment. But I don't have a home promotion. I'm in my This is my promotion right now. This is my house because there's no wrestling anymore. I just started training with Brian Myers and Pat Buck at Creative Pro.
Creative
I
Pro.
was so excited. I'm like,
Hmm.
I waited a long time to go to this place, but this is a star factory. It's a great school. You're
Hmm.
learning from active, guys in the top promotion. And, well, it's all gone. It's all gone to hell, but as is life, man. You keep rolling with the punches.
But when we come back from this whole mess, wouldn't you still be focused on getting to Creative Pro to,
Oh yeah, no,
elevate yourself?
we'll go back. Yeah, it's funny. My debut show, Creative Pro, it was like the first like empty arena taping show. It was literally, as this thing went on, we weren't entirely sure. It was the point of of this whole thing. I don't even want to mention it because you could get demonetized or whatever on YouTube.
I know.
It was at the start of it where it was just like you would ask people like, "Hey, do you even know anyone that has this thing?" And we'd be like, "Oh yeah, like a friend's brother's cousin, I think has it. Who knows?" Now it's gotten a lot closer to home, unfortunately. So, you know, that was like the start. That was like right at the start of it too, when I just made my debut. But again, it's yeah. When this thing is all said and done, I'm more than ready to come back and keep the ball rolling.
Now, obviously, going to these trips, Mexico, China, Germany, you come back, you're at the States. Now, at this point, and again, we're at a weird time, and I ask these questions because of the future. We don't know what it brings, but still curious though. Does Jay George, is he comfortable in the independent scene? Because many are, and it's not just, one or two promotions. You like to spread your wings, but is Jay George comfortable on that independent scene? Or is he looking to gain that higher plateau? Because in the indie scene, you've got those Beyonds and Limitless and Chaotix and those bigger names. And then that gets you to Evolve, which usually gets you to NXT, which gets you on those big stages. Is that what Jay George is looking for in his career?
Yeah, man. I mean, absolutely, because it's like I, I saw a lot of those people, a lot of my peers do that, and I saw where that took them. I could name drop 100 names that did
A
this
ton of them. Mm-hmm.
right. People that I wrestled with, people that I trained with, but you know, I have to do it for myself, and I've but flirted with companies like Limitless. I was on one of their like first shows. I flirted with companies like Beyond, Evolve. Like I just touched the surface
Mm-hmm.
of those places. I did their tryouts and I got this close, but I didn't quite get it. And actually, we'll see if I don't. You probably can't even see that, but I have like a,
It's like
a
flags or something.
yeah. No, what it is, it's a goal board here. You can probably get a better look at it right there.
Oh, okay.
These are I put this up to visualize the success I want, and there are all these different companies that I want to eventually perform at, work at, wrestle for.
Okay.
You
Why
know,
don't you throw what's the fans maybe like three or four of them?
right? What like of some of the companies that are up there?
Yeah.
So like just like NWA Power, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's I when they started doing those studio shows, I was enamored with it because it was a promo heavy promotion, and I love the old school NWA style. Um, AIW, AAW, those
Mm-hmm.
companies out in the Midwest, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
important to
Yeah.
branch out. I wanna eventually eventually wrestle in Japan. I want to go back to Mexico, so I put that up there. Limitless Wrestling Beyond, in terms of independent wrestling, those are two big ones for me of places that I want to really sink my teeth and prove myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now you've mentioned China.
Yep.
You've mentioned Mexico, Germany. Now, could you tell us the fans, because we're not wrestlers, and as Ronnie Ribs SOG says, I only weigh about 35 pounds, so there ain't no way that I'm getting into that ring. That's why I stay a fan. So could you give us like a little bit of the differential, the style of wrestling, if you will, without having to go into too much detail? The United States wrestling, you go to Germany, it's way different. Mexico, it's different. China, it's different. What are the small differentials, if you could share with us?
First of all, so the China thing was like that was probably one of the weird. I don't know, so weird because like they had their set style, and there's the style they did was very acrobatic, and it was a lot of mixture of the DDT style. I would say I'm sorry, not DDT, Dragon Gate, which is a mix of
Mm-hmm.
lucha libre and Japanese wrestling. and that was like the big thing. But they would also mix in a lot of kung fu wrestling.
Oh.
I kind of just keep things simple because there was only so much I could do. Um, Mexican lucha libre style training was great. It's a lot of, it's also acrobatic, but there's a certain flair to it and there's a certain nuance. What I like about the Mexican style myself and what I implement is the lucha submissions, which are very fancy submission holds, but they're also like, they could also be used as deadly submission holds. And I use a lot of those in my arsenal. Germany, um, that was I got to train a lot with Tim Thatcher, and I learned so much from him. He taught me a lot of like the catch wrestling style, grappling, very technical, very gritty, close quarters, tight, snug strikes, like. And then, I mean, the American wrestling, I think, is kind of very at the end, not 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 to disparage it, but it's very there's a base formula for the American style, right? There's the 7 steps of a match. There's all the stuff. It's like almost like for me what the American wrestling style was just a lot of the basics, right? And just the intro 101, and then everything else was more the advanced crash courses.
Okay.
It's the best way to describe it. But the reason for that, and the reason why I think that is because with the American style, is you can also go back to the promos. You can go back to the larger than life characters. That's the wrestling I grew up on. That's the wrestling I loved. That's why I try to be a larger than life character, which I think is missing. Because in a weird twist of irony, so many people were like, "Well, I don't want to be a punch and kick WWE style wrestler or whatever, or body slam." You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They were like, "Oh, I'm going to do all this cool Japanese stuff. I'm going to do all this cool lucha stuff." And in a weird vortex, a lot of people lost the personality of that. And then they just became wrestlers. And that's the part of the American style that I love and I think needs to be seen more is the characters and the larger than life stuff.
Because there are a lot of characters. As you're speaking about the differences, I'm thinking about the characters in Mexico, the characters in, say, New Japan wrestling, if you will. And some of those European characters, yeah, they are characters, but it's always, trunks, pads, boots, nothing crazy, nothing over the top, a lot of stuff like that. Promos, very little, if any at all. Same thing up in Japan. The only promos you ever really see is either behind when they get interviewed after the match or when the main event is done, and then you get the big guy coming up and he addresses the crowd in Japanese for, I don't know, it seems like 15 minutes straight.
Right.
But it's really not a promo. He's kind of talking to the crowd, if you will. So again, the promos aren't really there. Then you get down to Mexico, the characters are way crazy, sometimes a tad flamboyant more than others. And then the promos sometimes are like really kooky. So I find here that it's so promo based compared to anywhere else in the world. I think this is where like the promo mecca, if you will, not just take the wrestling part out of it, just that portion of, being able to cut a good promo. The United States, man, because we have so many different walks of life and so many different flavors to choose from, man, promos, I think, is just the base is the United States of, to incorporate into wrestling. And I may be wrong, I don't know, but trying to see it from a different perspective by seeing it like you just described, seeing it out there. I don't see promos and stuff like that. I see a little bit of character, a lot of great wrestling.
Yeah.
So you get a bit of everything.
I will say this, so one of the like a big piece of advice I had gotten recently. I was telling a contemporary of mine of like, oh yeah, I just did this in this place, and he told me, he was like, all right, whatever, cool. He says, listen, man, at the end of the day, you have to get over here. in this country, right? Because that's what matters. And you got to get over here. And it's true because that's why you see a lot of guys come from Europe to come here, and a lot of people come here to get over. I will say this, that in Japan and in Mexico, there are those guys that have those great promos. There's a lot of guys that are known for their promos and their stories and their characters. The problem is a lot of people obviously here can't relate to that because there's the language barrier. I'm bilingual. I can speak Spanish, so I can get behind a lot of the stuff that goes down in Mexico in terms of their storylines and their promos. So obviously it doesn't always translate here. So what we know of the Mexican style is we think of the pageantry and we think of the in ring style. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the focus, we're here, we're in this country. The focus is the stuff that goes on here, and what we knew growing up was that what we just said was the larger than life characters and the promos. That's what we know as the American style, right? In terms of, I guess, general wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's just say hypothetically, because this is also curiosity kills me on this question. Say JGeorge, he starts working his way up. He's elevating. Some eyes catch him. He gets onto the Performance Center. We see him on the WWE Facebook saying the new signees that are coming up. Like we see Miss Martinez come in and all, the people that we know.
Yeah.
Now, you get that opportunity, but they go, listen, man, we saw what you're doing. We get some of it, but we don't get all of it. This is what we're going to do. You're going to scratch everything you've ever done for your entire career. We're going to give you a new name. We're going to give you a new persona. How does JGeorge take that?
I mean, it's in a lot of, because, WWF, right, or WWE is what I primarily been following, what I've been studying. I'm prepared for that. I know that's going to happen, and I have the list of names in the back of my mind, and I have the
you do.
Of course, yeah, man. I mean, it's coming, right? And you want to be able to keep your name, and you want to, ideally, I would like to keep JGeorge, but why not? I got different things in mind,
That's cool.
But yeah, it's part of it is just being able to roll with the punches, but it's also trusting. Well, Shawn Michaels, Terry Taylor, Matt Bloom, like Steve Regal, Robbie Brookside, some of the greatest minds in wrestling. Like I'll trust your judgment,
Now I've noticed, and I've been wanting to talk to you about her. I've only seen her a couple times. You come out with a valet, if you will. Could you please describe to the fans this valet you have? Because man, she's a wild one, if you will.
A match, the proverbial match made in heaven, and she's my partner. I assume we talk about Felicia.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is funny because we'd actually had broken up last year. We were broken up for a year. Part of it was because I was away, and she broke off and did her own thing. But I mean, she was not in the business initially, but she has this. She's such a good speaker. She comes from this professional business background, and she's such a natural. Like we started doing these promos for a podcast show, and she was just so good. The word was just like, well, yeah, no, of course, like that's an easy transition, So she started managing me, and it's funny because like since I came back, we've been trying to plan like this moment of when we were going to reunite. We're trying to set it up. I had a match against Stan Styles, and which would have been perfect for us and her character and everything, but alas. So now hopefully once things get back to normal, me and her we'll be back in full swing, and she'll be back in my corner.
I just found it odd because JGeorge can speak quite well, promo wise, yakking to the fans and such. why added a valet being a mouthpiece as well, because she she gets in on that game with us, boy.
Oh, 100%. Well, that I looked at it like Sensational Sherry and Macho Man, right? Macho Man could do it on his own, but then you just add Sensational
Hmm.
Sherry. You have a Super Bowl coach, and then you add a Super Bowl quarterback. Uh, Paul Heyman and CM Punk, right? Like sometimes like those combinations work. Who did who did Bobby Heenan manage? That was a good talker. I know he managed a few good. Mr. Perfect, right?
Oh my word, yeah, he could talk away.
Yeah.
You, now, do you find that the manager is kind of a lost thing in wrestling nowadays?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And I think that was also part of it too. Was like having that where it wasn't well that my idea too was like it wasn't so much of just having somebody that comes to the ring with you, it was someone that can again that could talk with you and
Mm.
do the promos with you. And we did some cool stuff, and I got to like get into some different styles of promos and stuff with her.
Well, Mr. J. George, you said you want to spread your wings. I would love to see it come down to test of strength. I don't
Yeah,
know if you have a.
I do a test of strength, or I don't even remember. I saw you at a Connecticut show. I've seen you at
Uh,
other shows as well, but I saw you at a Paul Roma gig. But I
oh,
forget.
then it was a PAPW show. Yes,
You know what?
PAPW.
Hey, screw test of strength. I want that. I followed along when you did the stirring the pot championship series. There it is, and it just fell. I followed. I followed along. I was hooked on it. I watched every video from you losing it to your nephew or whoever. uh, to the barbecue, which is hysterical. Yeah.
He's the current. That's Hamlet Hertue's buddy Yorick. He's the current champion right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'll have to visit. Does your ex buddy have a name? I'll have to visit him.
Woo! Imagine, boys and girls, J. George popping at my front door with a referee, pinning, pinning Yorick and taking that championship and running back to Jersey. Holy shit!
Time to stir the pot.
Wow! Oh my God, that would be amazing. Mr. J. George, you, my friend, I expected a little bumpy ride, a roller coaster, if you will. You, my friend, were absolutely a gem today.
Thank you so much, man. It was great. I'm glad I got to do this with you, man. Ironically, I've been a big fan of yours, so it's cool.
Wow, man, that really you've put a lot of love in my heart today, and I can't thank you enough for that, my friend. Because again, we have had only a few interactions, and like I guess I'm just so used to the test of strength, PAPW. I see the men and women so much, not seeing a guy like Jay George 20, 30, 40 times. It just seems like we haven't seen each other in a very long time, which is
Oh no,
definitely a thing.
it's been way too long, man. Way
It
too.
has.
I haven't been around in New England in a while, so it's time to come back. Who would you like to see me up against from Test of Strength or any of the other New England promotions over there?
Well, uh, that's a loaded question because I have a list of about 30 people.
I'm sure that those punks from the firm, you'd like to see me put them in their place and give them their what for.
Well, that's where I was going at the tail end, and I never hate to use the words "the firm" together in one in one sentence. I would love for you to take one Elijah Six and maybe put him in his place. That would be amazing, my friend.
Yeah, man. Hey, never say never, man. 2021 pro wrestling's coming back.
I would love to see that. Oh my God, my heart is a pitter right now just seeing you take out one Elijah Six. But you got to watch out for those three other jerkies. You know,
They
you
always,
got to watch out for them.
they never come alone. Also, so real quick, I'm just curious, what do you been? You say you don't watch much TV, but what was the last show you binge watched?
Uh, binge watch? I don't binge watch anything.
Really? I can respect that. But you never got into like Breaking Bad or anything like that?
I did, but I watched it as it kind of progressed.
Right. You watch it as it goes. Do you watch Better Call Saul?
Never seen it.
Oh, see, that's you got to watch it. If you enjoyed Breaking Bad, you got to watch Better Call Saul. It's great, good stuff.
Okay. All right.
Just
Good.
throw that out, the little suggestion.
Now, again, I'm not a very big TV person, but hey, see that, boys and girls? We were talking wrestling. We were talking JGeorge. And we ended up talking Breaking Bad and some Better Call Saul. Is that what you said? Better Call Saul?
Sure, whatever. Yeah, Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul.
JGeorge, this has been a fantastic conversation. I cannot thank you so much for your time spending with us in this whole crazy thing, and I'm glad that you're doing very well. I am so happy that you're doing well through this whole thing, sir.
Absolutely. Are you a big fan of the Doors at all?
I love the Doors. Are you kidding me? Dude, 1970 is when I was born. My first wrestling match was Bob Backlund, going against Cowboy Bob Orton at Bristol Central High School. Come on, man.
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. I like me some Bob Backlund. I've been watching. I randomly found Bob Backlund did some stuff for UWF, which was like a shoe wrestling promotion in Japan. It is amazing to watch because he takes a beat and he keeps on taking.
love Bob Backlund. Holy cow. JGeorge, I cannot wait until we can reconnect. That is going to be amazing.
Absolutely. Hopefully we'll see each other soon, man. Definitely long overdue. Kincaid Files, Stirring the Pot Championship. It's all up for grabs.
Whoa. York, you better watch your shit, buddy.
Yeah.
This is Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid. And my very special guest tonight, what a surprise this was. One Lenny Kravitz / Thunderheart, JGeorge. Thank you so much, JGeorge, for spending the time with us, the fans.
And as Lenny Kravitz said, it's time to fly away.